This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, fine. So let's start. So today we will cover HANA security, like maintaining users and authorization. So basically, this is not the base HANA admin jobs. Okay, if you're working as a basis and a HANA admin, then the HANA security something is done by the application security team. So we have similarly like in the SAP application, if you see that there we have the basis and the security consultant. Basis do the administrator and the security team, they provide the users and the access. Similar thing we have in the HANA database. So for the basis people learn the HANA admin, and then security people learn the HANA security. But as the basis or HANA admin, we should be know that how the users and the authorization are maintained and created. Not in deep, but little idea about the users and the authorization maintenance in the HANA database. So we'll see that in uh, high level we will cover the maintaining user and authorization, that is HANA security is very vast topic. Okay, so yeah, so we'll see that how to create a users, types of users, then the types of privileges, how we grant the privileges to the users. Okay, how to lock and unlock the users. Okay, password the policies. These all we will cover in this session. So let's start. So user management in the HANA database. So so few objects are there related to the security, like users, the roles, privileges. Okay, so and the objects. So these are the some of the uh, you know uh, we can say that container objects are there in the HANA systems. Okay, in respect to getting little noise. Everyone is getting noise.
I think some issue with your microphone, maybe.
This is the new one, yes. Okay, the noise. Oh, okay. Just a minute. Now, is it same? Hello. Okay. Oh, this is the new my headphone. I think I have to let me. Yesterday was also the same the case.
No, now it's clear.
Hello.
And now it's
It was same yesterday as well.
no.
Now it is clear.
Yes.
Audible.
Yes.
Hello guys, I am audible. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello. But I can't hear you guys. Let me reconnect then. Hey, hello guys. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, but I can't. Okay. Just a minute. Just give me some time. By speaker, maybe. Headset. Okay. Headset. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. You are using microphone. Okay,
Hello.
headset microphone. Ah, it's now good, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, okay. I think some setting was misplaced on this GoToMeeting. Yeah, so I corrected. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's start. Who's the organizer? Okay, fine. It is recording. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's start. So user management. So users, the all users that sorry, all access to the data and the execution of action in database require authorization. If any user want to perform some action in HANA database, then it required a user ID and the authorizations. Every user who want to work directly with SAP HANA database must have a database user with necessary authorizations. What is the privileges? Privileges is nothing but controlling the authorizations. So in application we call a privileges. In application SAP application we call authorization object. Here we call a privileges. Privileges restrict the access to a data and the execution of action. The roles is the set of privileges. Set of privileges means you can create a roles and you can bundle all the privileges in that roles. Similar like in the SAP application, we create a roles in the PFCG, and in that roles we add the authorization object. The same thing here, we create a roles and then we bundle all the required privileges in the roles. Roles or privileges are assigned to a users, database users. So when we install the HANA database first time, then system user is created by default. Okay, so that is having the super the privileges. It is we call a super users. Also, the operating system user is created SID ADM, which we use to start and stop the HANA database. So if you see here diagram, so user has the user can create an object in the HANA database. So object it can be anything, any repositories or content, anything. Either it is maybe user ID and the roles, anything. So whatever you create in the HANA database, that is we call an object. So user own that object. The privileges you can assign to users, or you can club all the bundle all the privileges in the roles and then assign the roles to the users. So best practice SAP recommended follow this path. Assign bundle all the privileges in the roles and then assign that roles to the users. Okay, assigning the privileges directly to users will be a very complex security management. Okay, so if other users comes with the same the roles and responsibility, then you will be assigning, if there is a 20 to 30 privileges is there, then you will be assigning the 20 to 30 privileges one by one to that users. So directly working on a privileges, it will be very complex to manage the HANA security. But if you work with the roles, you assign the privileges to a roles. So roles creation is one time, the privileges assignment is one time, and you directly assign that roles to the user. If n number of users come with the same roles and the responsibility, you can directly assign the roles to that users. So in one click, you can grant the required access to the users. So this is the base recommendation from the SAP to follow this path: privileges, then roles, and then users. Fine. So SAP HANA users, so we have two types of users. We call it technical users, and also we have the database, which we call a real users. So technical users are created by default. Whenever we install the HANA systems, the technical users are created. The most common technical user are system users, and then sys_sys_repo. The systems, we know that, okay. The sys is the internal users. Sys_sys_repo, it is also internal users. You cannot log in with this users. You cannot modify, the users, this users. So sys user is basically the owner of your systems, and _sys_repo is the owner of the repository object. So whatever the repository object we have in the HANA systems, the owner is with only _sys_repo. Database users, that is the real users. So we create a database user. It is called an external user as well. So database user means external users. There are two types: standard users and the restricted users. Standard users are nothing but a database user. Restricted users are nothing but the end users. The standard users like the database user who create an object in the HANA database, like you, me, like HANA basis consultant, HANA admin, then HANA security consultant, then BW consultant, ABAP consultant. If they want access in HANA database, then we create a database user. Why? These guys are the consultant and they are going to develop the object. Okay. And the restricted user are nothing but the end users. They will not going to, generate or create any object in the HANA database. They are just end users to perform the transactions, to views the reports, to enter the data in the HANA systems. Okay. So this is the restricted user, that is the end users. So I explained this one. So standard users, so when we create a standard users, by default public role is assigned. So one public role is there by default. So whenever we create a standard users, public role is assigned to the standard users, that is the DB users, and this public roles has the privileges for the read privileges it has. And whenever you create the users, user can log into the HANA systems, and then they can view the systems, HANA system views. They can view the HANA systems views. So when I say HANA system views, so if you see here, when you create any DB users, if they log in, initially the public role is assigned. So public roles contain a system view access, that is the read system view access. When I say read system view access, means the users can see the catalogs, content, provisionings, and security. Only the read access. Okay, not the content, but catalogs, the provisioning, security, and the backups. Okay, so the one, they will get this. Even the content, I think they will get the read access. So the systems related objects, initially the users will be having the access to the public roles. Okay, fine. Also when also the one schema is created for the standard users. Okay, so every users, that is every standard users or DB user, have their own schema. Okay, whereas the restricted users, a restricted user doesn't have the public roles. When we create a restricted user, it doesn't have the public roles, and it doesn't have the schema. So schema is, why schema is not required? Because this is the restricted users. This is the end user. This user is not going to do anything in the HANA systems. But the DB users has always, every DB user had their own schema, so that they can create object in their own schemas. Restricted users doesn't have access to ODBC and the JDBC, so that this restricted user cannot connect to HANA database through HANA Studio. They have to connect through the application. So this restricted users basically is used when developers develop any applications using the XXVL, that is the web-based engine. So if they develop any web-based application, and that is we call a application, XX application we call. If they have developed any application, then the users want access to that particular application, then the restricted user we create. So we create restricted users and we assign the application privileges, whatever the application they want, and then they open the URLs. The restricted user open the URL, they give the user ID and the password, their user ID and password. They can view the dashboard and all that, and they can do the transaction, they can view the reports and all that. Okay, so restricted users can access your systems through the application only, web-based application, not through the HANA Studio. Any questions till now? Fine. I'll show you in the system. So if you see here, how to create a users, if you go in the security folders, then under that we have the users and the roles. If you export the users, you will see the by default users which is created during the installation. So you see that syst user is there, system is there, syst is there, and then underscore repo is there. So these all are the the internal users. Only the external these are the technical users. Okay, some of the internal user and some of the external users. So external user is only system users which we use and log in. You want to create a users, just right click on the users, and then you will get two options: new users and then restricted users. So we only create a external users. The external users are two types of external user are new users, that is the DB users, and the restricted user are the end users. So new user always we create for the developers, HANA admin, HANA security, and then any developers who going to log into the HANA Studio and they monitors or they do the developments and all that. So always create a DB users for the consultant. Just click on that. Here just give the the user's name and then your password. And if you have these SSO is configured, then you can select the SSO, types of SSO which is configured. Then here don't provide anything, so I'll show you the difference between the standard and the restricted users. So I not specify anything, I have just specified the user ID and then password, and here is the deploy button is there. If you click on the deploy, then it create the users. So once you click on the deploy, then it's create the users, and the by default what permission this user will get, I'll show you that. So if you see that public role is granted, Okay, this public role is granted. System privileges, we don't have the system privileges, we don't have object privileges. Sorry, object privileges is there, one schema. So with the same name, the one schema is created. Okay, so schema owner is always SES. So SES is the internal users which has the the owner of all your the schemas. So here each and every DB user will be having their own schema. Okay, the users can create any object in their own schema, but can't create any object in other schema if the user doesn't have the privileges or access to create object in other schema. Okay, so that is the part of the security as well, to grant the access to the users to create a object in other schema as well. So analytic views, we don't have package privileges, we don't have application privileges, we don't have the privileges on the user, we don't have. So while creating the standard user, the public roles and object schema is assigned, and also the ODBC JDBC is enabled for these users. Also ODBC JDBC, if you see that ODBC JDBC is enabled. So that means that these users can connect to the HANA Studio. Okay, so we'll see that how to connect. So just right click and then add system with different users. So I have not assigned anything to this user Abdul. I'll show you that what basic access this Abdul user will get. Just type the username Abdul, then the password, and finish. Then it will ask you to change the password because always initial password is changed. Same functionality we have in the application as well. So whenever we create a users, the system asks to change the password. So this define the password policy. This is comes from the password policies. Okay, so if you see here, so through the public roles, so this through public roles, user get the read access to catalogs, content, provisionings, and the security. Okay, to the folders, yeah. So under the catalogs, this Abdul user will get the system related schema access. That is the read only. Okay, so if we expand this one, limited access the user will get. So these are the system related schemas. Okay, so this the user will get to the public roles. The content, you can read the content, but you cannot execute anything. If you execute here, the user will get insufficient privileges because this content contain the repositories. Okay, so repositories are created by the customers or us. Okay, so if the user have the access to the repository, then the user will get access to the content. So the default repository we don't have. So so that's the reason the system doesn't have the repository. In the provisioning, if expand, the user will get the read access only. So here the user will get only the read access to the public. Also the user will get the read access to the security as well. Okay, so the user cannot create anything. The user will be having the read access. So this is come to the public roles. Okay, I'll show you the example of the restricted users. So go to the security. I'll create a restricted user and I'll compare what is the difference between these two. Just click on the new restricted users. The rest, I'll give the username rest. If you see that I click on the restricted users, so here you will see the new restricted users, and here the restricted user has the ODBC JDBC disabled by default. Okay, so give the password. So when we create a restricted user, nothing is assigned. no public role, no object privileges, even disable the ODBC, JDBC. So this user cannot access the database through the HANA Studio. So if you see here, always you will see that whenever you click on users, if you compare both users, here the name is written, only the username is written for the standard users, that is the DB user. Okay, but if you see the restricted users, you will see the rest username, and then in the bracket rest is the username which I created. In the bracket you will see the restricted users, and the restricted user, you know, ODBC, JDBC is disabled, and then here for the database user it is enabled. And if you see the restricted user, no roles is there, but if you see the DB user, the public role is there. If you see the object in the DB users, one schema is there, but you go in the restricted, if you click on the object, doesn't have any. So this restricted user are the end users, they doesn't own any information about your system, so they get the access to the HANA systems through the application. So if you see that application privileges is there, okay, if there is any application, okay, that is the web-based application which runs on the Access engine, then you just assign the application privileges to the users, and then users you use that URLs, and then after that they give the user ID, that URL asks the user ID, the password, then give the user ID, the password, and then they enter into the HANA system through the application. Okay, clear this one? So interview question might be, they ask what are the types of the users, what are the two different types of user we create. So new user, that is the DB user, and the restricted user, what is the difference between both? So you explain this one. Yeah, sometimes they ask, okay, they wanted to know that whether you know about the you know, the users and the roles management in the HANA systems. Even in the certification, if you're going for the certification, so some questions comes from this area as well. Not in the deep, but you know, small, you know, basic questions. Okay, fine. Any questions here? No.
So, if we don't have any application running on HANA, so this is not in use.
Yeah, correct. So yeah, I forgot to explain that one. Yeah, so if you are running, just a minute. Yeah. So if you are running SAP on HANA only, okay, then the restricted user will not come into the picture. Okay, if you are running SAP on a HANA database with some development, okay, like you have developed some application, then that time only the restricted user come into the picture. Otherwise, the restricted user will not be you know, will not be come into the picture if the development is not happening, or if there is no any applications, custom applications running in the HANA database. Okay. So some of the big projects they have, they utilize the HANA database for application development. So sometimes they have, you know, separate HANA database without you know, SAP applications. They have the HANA database. They develop their you know, application. Okay, so application is any application, whether it is XX engine based application, you know, inbuilt applications, or they can use the other as well, like, you know, Excel. Okay, through the Excel you can also connect. Okay, so to read the data, to fetch the data in Excel. Okay, so they connect to the HANA database through the Excel as well. So that is also called application. Okay, so there you will using the restricted users. Also, if you are developing the you know, .NET, some Java or .NET platform you're using for your front end, okay, then there the restricted user will come into the picture. Okay, so the HANA database supports a lot of languages, .NET, then Java, then scripting, Python, a lot of, you know, developments platform it supports. Okay, So yes, if they are not using SAP and they have the HANA database with their own application, non-SAP application, then in that case you will come to know that are restricted users. Okay, so there you will see the restricted users. If you see that in the application SAP running on the HANA database, so SAP is the application. It is non. It is a SAP ERP application. And how we give the application access through the PFCG and the SU01. Okay, so users for the application is different, the users for the HANA database is different. So whatever the users you create in the application in SU01, you cannot see those in the users. Yeah, okay, so that you will see in the schema. Under that schema you will be having the user table, user USR 02, 01, 04, whatever it is. So that is the application users and this is the DB users, both are different. Yeah, any other questions? Fine, so we'll move. Okay, so yeah, so predefined user system, we know that system sys is the technical database users. It is the owner of the database object such as system tables and the monitoring views. This is the technical front end users. This is the technical use. Yeah, what is your question, Supratim?
Oh, sorry. Actually, Rakesh was asking what was your question, so I just explained it in Bengali.
Okay, no issue. So this is a technical database user. It is not possible to log in with these users. So sys is the technical users, internal technical users. You cannot use this user for login. So login is disabled for sys and underscore sys underscore repo. So underscore sys underscore repo is the technical database users and it is the owner of the repository. Sometimes the interview questions or in the exams, global exams, they ask about the sys and the underscore sys underscore repo. So they ask, so who own the repository? Who is the owner of the repositories in HANA database? So owner is the repository owner is underscore sys underscore repo. Who is the owner of the database object in the HANA systems? So system tables and the system and the monitoring view. So it is a sys. Okay, so basic questions comes in the exams as well. Okay, so yeah, so this is the owners for all the repository objects. Okay, fine. Privileges, types of privileges means authorizations. We can say that in simple terms. So in application we call authorization object. In HANA database we call it privileges. So 5 to 6 types of privileges are there. So I know of the 5 privileges on the users. I don't know what is that exactly, but rest I know it very well. So we'll go with the one by one. So we'll start with the system privileges. So system privileges means system related, if the user want to perform system related activity like taking the backups, monitorings, license installations, users creations, roles creation, schema creation, table creations. So these all are the system related activity. So we have the system privileges. Okay, session management, then audit management. Okay, so these all are the system related activities. So predefined system privileges are there. So SAP provide the predefined system privileges. So we don't modify, we cannot modify, we cannot create our own system privileges. We have to use the predefined system privileges. Okay, I'll show you in the systems. So if you see here, this is the system privileges. If you want to assign the system privileges for Abdul, just click on the plus sign. So here we have the predefined system privileges. For example, you want Abdul to perform the backups of the HANA systems. You assign the backup admin, backup operators. Just click and then deploy. Now this user can perform the user can trigger the backups. Okay, because this is a system related activity. If you expand plus sign, you will see the lot of things: certificates admin, then catalog reads, you will get a read access. Then if you see that, INF files admin. INF files admin means if you have the INF files admin system privileges, then you can configure the INF files in the configuration tab. License admin, you can install the license. Then simple, I'm just explaining. The role admin, you can create the rules. Okay, then service admin. Okay, session admin, this is related to monitorings. Then trace admin, to enable the trace. User admin, you can create a users. Okay, so yeah, so whatever we do in the systems, we have the system privileges. Without the system privileges, you cannot perform the anything like creating the schemas. Okay, like this. Okay, so if you want, you just click, it will be there here, and then you just click on the deploy. So user will get access to the systems. Okay, so what are the systems they want to whatever the activity they want to perform related to systems, we assign this one. Fine. Then object privileges. The object privileges means assigning the object to the users. So what is the object? So object is, we sometimes also call SQL privileges. Object privileges we call sometimes SQL privileges. So in the object privileges, we grant access to the schema, we grant access to our tables, we grant access to the procedures, we grant access to our triggers, we grant access to our views. So SQL objects are the schema, tables, in then views, then procedures, triggers, functions. So these are part of the object privileges. Okay, so I'll show you that in the systems. If you go in the object privileges, if you want to provide a access to some tables to the Abdul, then just click on the plus sign, then you search the tables, what are the tables you want to perform, you want to give access. Okay, so you just type here. Okay, I don't have any table, so I'll give you I'll select one from system tables. Okay, for example, if you want to give access to this particular tables, for example, you just select this one here, and then you select these tables and what action the users will going to perform: select, update, delete, insert, triggers, and all that. For example, I just want the user can perform only the select, that the user can read the data from this particular tables. Just give the select and then deploy. So user will be getting the access to this particular tables. They can read the data from this particular tables. So this is we call a object privileges. So in the object privileges, you give the schema permission, tables permission, the views, then the triggers, procedures, lot of things are there. So that comes under the object privileges. Then next is the package privileges. So package privileges is nothing but the repository, we can say that. So developers, any developers, BW or ABAP, they create up packages in the HANA systems, and if you want to grant access to that package to the other users, then we give you the package privileges. Okay, so if you see here, where is the package located? Package is always located in the content. If you expand because the package are the repositories, if you expand this content, you will see the package. This is the standard packages. Okay, system packages, public, then SCP, then system locals. So from here they create a package. If they want to develop some objects, so they create first package. They go in the content, then they click on the right, and then they select the packages, and then they give the package name, any package name they can give. Like here, I'm just giving the test. Okay, then okay. Then package is created. Under that package, they create a, they can create a sub packages, or they can create a objects. Just right click. They can create a, sub packages, and they can create their views. So these are the attributes. These are the views. We call them modeling views. So what are the modeling views? Are the attribute views, calculation views, analytical views, analytical privileges, then procedures, then decision tables. Okay, so these are the repository object they create in the contents. Okay, so they do the developments. If the other user want the access to modify these views inside the test the packages, then we grant a package privileges. Okay, so we go in the package privileges, then we click a plus sign, and then we search for the packages. Okay, so let it search it. If you don't want the system to search, just you click test. Okay, and then you'll get the year package. Yeah, so here you just assign that one, click, and then here we have the access for the package. Whether the user want read access, if they want read access, then you give the repo read. If the users want to have the development access, then you can have all these things. So they can create a modify, they can create modify object under that packages. Okay, so we assign the privileges on native packages always in development systems, and these privileges we assign in quality or production. Okay, so this privileges we assign in case of they want to do some emergency changes in quality or production environment. But first, this one always in the development systems. Okay, and then click on the deploy button. This Abdul will get the access to the test package. Fine. Okay, so the next is the system object package analytical privileges. Yeah. So analytical privileges. So basically, these analytical privileges are used to. So object privileges you can grant, the table level access. The users will have the full access to entire table. So if this table having the 100 records, and you have assigned the object privileges on that select on that tables, then this Abdul user will can read the all the entries from these tables. Okay, because we have granted you select on these particular tables. So this Abdul can read the entire rows. But if you want to restrict that Abdul can views their own data. Their own data means their own regional data or their own departmental data. Okay, so that we can control through the analytical privileges. Okay, so analytical privileges, the developer they create the analytical privileges on their views. So whatever they create a views in the content, on top of that views they create a analytical privileges, and they restrict the data. So row level restriction is applied through the analytical privileges. So for example, you have Abdul is from sales department, and this table is related to the entire department, sales, then finance, HR, all types of data is there in this particular tables, and we want this Abdul can access their own department data. So we can create a views. So developers they create a views analytical privileges, and they assign some restrictions in that one. so that the Abdul can view their own the regional or their own department data. So the Abdul cannot see the complete data in that particular tables. So they can see only the restricted data. So analytical privileges are used to impose the restrictions on the row levels. Okay. So how to assign what the analytical privileges are created? We go directly here plus sign, and you'll see the analytical privileges. You just click that analytic privileges, and then you can click on the OK. So user will get the restricted access. Okay, right now we don't have anything here. Okay, but if you see that one is there, underscore sys underscore bi underscore cp underscore all. So if you assign this one, then user will get access to the all the data. Okay, so this is something something like SAP all. Okay, if you assign this one, then user will not be having any restrictions for viewing the to view the or read the data from any views. So user will not have will having the restrictions if you assign cp underscore all. So this particular user can views the data from all the views. So the analytical privileges are basically from any applications the users can see the can have the access to the the tables. Okay, so this cp underscore all is something like SAP all. So we don't assign this to the end users. So basically we assign this in the development system for the developers so that they can do the development testings. Okay, and then they can move their changes to the quality or production. And in quality and production we don't assign this one. Okay, if they have the any requirement for the analytical privileges, then they create and then they ask the security people assign these roles always to that particular users, something kind of. Yeah, so whatever we have, we assign the restricted privileges using the analytical privileges to the users. So yeah, application privileges. So application privilege, if you have created any application, basically this application privilege is applicable for only the restricted users. You can assign for the DB user as well, but it is basically designed for the the restricted users. So standard application privileges is there, which is required DB access. Okay, so the standard, whatever the standard we have application privileges, those application privileges we cannot assign. We can assign to the DB user and the restricted users, but those standard privileges are related to the DB access. Okay, so the restricted user will not get access to your database. Okay, so if you have any custom application privileges, then the restricted user can able to access from the URL. Okay, but if you see that inside that there are a lot of application there, web-based application is there. If you see that you can take the backups. We have the SAP HANA.backups admin. Okay, okay, so this is the web-based something kind of. So if you assign this one, then user want to log in. If you assign this to the restricted user, and if you're trying to log in to the to the URLs, then user will not get access because this access required access to the ODBC and the JDBC, and ODBC and the JDBC is disabled for the restricted users. Yeah, so it is basically restricted for application. The privilege is basically for the custom application, not for the standard application. So all the standard application is work for the DB users. Okay, fine. So how to assign? Just select whatever it is, just select and then deploy. It's very simple. It's look like simple, but it has very deep the knowledge. Uh, uh, the HANA security is very vast. Okay, fine. Any questions till now? I don't know about the privileges of the users, but I know everything others.
For the object privileges,
Come again?
for the object privileges,
Okay.
So if I have say 20 tables, do I put it one by one, or there is a way of putting like together all of them?
So through the SQL query, you can do that one as well. So if you're going with the HANA Studio, then you have to put one by one, select one by one. Otherwise, through the SQL statement, you can also manage the HANA security. Okay, so like you can grant the object like there is a statements like grant. I'll show you that. I don't remember the SQL. So if you see HANA security, where is the rules? So here we have a lot of things. So for example, if you want to grant a object privileges, okay, so we grant like this. Just a minute. If you see here, like this, you can grant. So if you see the grant execute on sys underscore repository res to HANA underscore, this is the rules. Okay, so instead of roles, you can put the user's name. So you can have the if you have the multiple tables. So this is the your tables. Okay, this is the tables. Grant execute on sys is the your schema. Okay, dot this is the tables. Okay, to either users and the roles you can assign. So if you have the 20, then you have to you know uh, you have to write 20 times this one and then copy paste in the SQL console and then execute. Okay, so this way you can manage. So yeah, so for to working on the SQL, you should be doing the SQL commands uh, for managing the HANA security. Yeah. So here is the so I take the HANA security classes as well. Okay, so that's the reason. Yeah, here is. So if you see that lot of things are there. Okay, if you see your users management authorization, types of privileges, repository rules, lot of things are there in the HANA security. Yeah, fine. Any other questions?
One more question.
Yeah.
So when I am doing a system refresh, my backup will be of the USR02 table, whatever users are listed. We don't need to take care of anything, any users related to like the restricted or non-restricted users.
Yeah. So for DB users, okay. So basically, it will override all the users. So whatever the users you have in quality or restricted user or DB users, those all will be override from the production copy. Okay, so for that we can't do anything. But for the users SU01, so before refresh we do the export of the users from the application to the SSE. Yes, what is that? 7 or 8. Okay, so yeah, so it will override for the at the DB level. Sorry, I forgot. I'm not sure whether I answered your questions. So your question was related to the application user or the DB users?
Application users we can export and keep, but DB users we don't do that. I mean,
No,
it will.
yeah, no, we can't. We can't. So there's no options to export and import the DB users. You can export and import, but you have to write your own script or queries. But there is no any standard way. SAP provided any tools to export and import the DB users. But you can extract in the you can develop your own script and you can do that. Any other questions? Fine.
So is there any way to check the total number of DB users? So just checking using HANA Studio we can answer, or like is there any query?
There is a query, lot of things. So everything, whatever you do from the HANA Studio, we have the query as well. If you search, or you can, if you are good in the SQL command, then you can write the queries. If you know about the HANA database object, like schema, tables, then views, if you know concept of this, then only you able to only write the queries, or you able to only understand the queries. Okay. So if you want to uh, if you want to extract the number of users, then you should be aware that where my this DB users are stored. Okay, in which tables, okay, in which schema. Okay, so yeah, it's very big topics. Yeah. Any other questions? Fine. Okay, so let me move next topic. So yeah, privileges. If you see that system privileges we assign to the administrator, developers, analytical privileges we assign to the end users, object privileges we assign to end user or technical users, package we assign to application and content developers, application privileges we assign to the end users. Okay, like this. Applicable to system, database, analytical views, then database object, schema, tables, view, procedure, and so on. So this is, if you understand these object privileges, object in the HANA database like schema, tables, views, procedures. Okay, then you say 70 to 82% you will be you will able to work on the HANA security. So this is the big topic, object privileges. So without understanding the structure of the HANA database, you won't able to write the queries even. If you want to write SQL statements like this, executing, extracting the number of users or number of roles, if you know this part, then you can easily, write the SQL procedures or SQL queries. Okay, so this is very, very important. The schemas object, how we can retrieve the tables data from the schemas. So SQL level developments, the queries, it is very simple, but understanding for the HANA database object is little complex. Fine. So package privileges, the repository, it is related to repository. Application privileges related to the HANA XX applications. Yeah. So this is covered. This is also covered. Yeah, roles. Okay, roles. So the roles, we have the standard roles in the HANA database. So what is the roles? The roles contain the privileges, authorizations. SAP has provided the standard roles. The security team, they can create their custom roles as well. Okay, so standard roles means we have predefined roles like modeling, monitorings. Okay, like this. So I'll show you in the systems. I will explain in the systems only. Okay. So you will able to understand. Okay. So for example, if you see here the roles, let me close this one. For example, so there are a lot of roles are there, predefined roles are there, but most commonly used are the content admin, modelings, monitorings, public. What else? And SAP underscore internal and underscore HANA. Okay. So these are the 4 to 5 roles commonly used in a day-to-day, life. Just a minute. Charging. Yeah. So if you are working as a HANA security, the HANA security people basically deal with these roles. If they are not aware of the much more in creating the custom rules, then they are grant this types of predefined roles to the users. Okay, I'll show you that what it contains. So if you see monitoring, simple one, the public we already covered, it is default. We don't modify the public roles. We cannot do anything with the public rules. Okay, it is assigned directly while creating. You cannot assign the public roles to any users. It is assigned by default. If you are trying to assign, then you won't able to assign it. Even you cannot remove the public roles from the users. Okay, if it is DB users. Monitoring roles. If you expand the monitoring roles, if you assign these monitoring roles to the users, then users can monitor the HANA systems. Okay, but they cannot modify anything. Like if the user want to modify the INA files, okay, like then they cannot do. Okay, so if you see the monitoring roles, what is there in the system privilege? We have the catalogs. So catalog read means the user will get access to the catalogs. Okay, read access means systems read access. Also in the object privileges, if you see that monitoring means the user will be monitoring your systems, and the monitoring data is come from statistics servers. Okay, statistics servers have their own schema. Okay, if you see that statistics, yeah. So this object privilege is required for the users who want to monitor. So here, if you see the read only access, so this is the schema. Okay, statistics schema, statistic telemetry. If you see that here, the users, in the roles we have the select privileges. So basically, if you have the users will HANA admin users, okay, and it is the freshers, and you want to give only the monitoring the roles and the responsibility, then you can assign this monitoring the roles to the users, HANA admin or basis people. They can monitor the HANA systems. Okay, but they will not get the access to the change access. They will not get. Okay, so this is related to the monitorings. Okay, so other is the modelings. Okay, if you see that nothing is assigned, application privileges, package privileges, nothing is there. So it is related to monitorings. You will get only the read access. Okay, so how to assign? So if you see that, let me remove all these backup admin and all that. I'll show you one example, so you will come to know about this one. So this Abdul user, if you see that, if I already logged in, and for example, if the Abdul users want to do a monitorings, okay, this is, let me refresh. If these Abdul users want to do a monitoring task, they will create on the SIDs. Once they create on the SIDs to open the administrator console for the monitorings, then this user will get these errors. Cannot open administrator editor, you do not have the required privileges. Okay, so to monitor the HANA systems, this users require a monitoring rules. Okay, if you assign monitoring rules, the grant rules, so this monitoring rules deploy, and then you refresh the users. Okay, it is deploy. Refresh this users, and then double click. Now this user will get access to the monitoring. They can open the administrator consoles. It is open. If you see that, Abdul. Okay, so this user can monitor. They can perform the monitoring, but this users can't do any modifications. If you see that, we can read the data. The users can read all these things. Landscape, they can go in the landscape. They can see, but if they want to do anything like right click, if they want to restart, nothing will be there. Yeah, alerts. Okay, if they want to go in configuration tab, if they want to do something, they want trying to modify, but they won't be able to do it because it is a read access. If they want to do something, if the user is trying to double click on this one, then user will not able to do it. Okay, user will not able to do it. I'm trying on double clicking on this one, but it is not opening because it is a read access. Okay, so in the monitoring, the user will get only the read access. Fine. Coming back to the rules, this is about monitorings. What is the content admin? Before that content admin, I'll go with the modelings. So modelings. What is the modelings? So modeling roles are basically we assign to the developers. With this modeling roles, the developers, they can create, modify the repository objects. They can create the repo. They can create a package. They can create the views, decision tables, then the procedures, everything they can do with the content. So with the modeling roles. Okay, so users, developers like BW, ABAPers, we assign this to them, and they can do any developments in the HANA system. They can create a delivery units, they can create a packages, they can create a views, they can create a decision tables, they can create any object in the repositories. Okay, so if you see what contain it contain in the system privileges. If you see that category, then create structures, structures, privileges, admin. Okay, and then if you go in the object privileges, this is the predefined. Okay, and if you go in analytic privileges, it has the full access to the CP_all. Okay, full access to analytic privileges. Then package, you will see the root package, and in the root package you will see that all is this is tick mark. Okay, this is tick mark. So this is we are assigning the development systems. Okay, and then application, nothing is there in the application packaging privileges on the user, nothing. So this is the important for the developers. Root package privileges, then analytical privileges all, then object privileges, this much is required, and then system privileges. Okay, with this modeling, the users can do anything, any kind of object they can create in the HANA database, whether it is repository object, whether it is catalog objects. Okay, the second is the content admin. Content admin is similar like a modeling. Content admin is similar like a modeling, but in the content admin, we are getting the extra access related to the change movement. Okay, if you assign the content admin, then content admin has the modeling privileges plus export import privileges. Export import privileges means the users, whatever they have developed, whatever the object they have developed in the development systems, they want to move in quality of production, then the user should have the content admin privileges. Sorry, content admin privileges. If you see in the system privileges, you'll see the export, import, repo export, import, then maintain delivery units, and this one. So this is related to these fours are related to the transport mechanisms. Okay, so transport mechanism, when I say it is not through the transporter case, it is through the export import. They export the objects in the laptops, and then they import into the quality system. They export from the HANA system development to their own laptops, and they can import into the quality or productions. This is we call export import. Okay, so this is done through the content admin or with this four, the system privileges. If you want the users only to perform export and import, then you assign this. Okay, like in transport, we have the, in application we have the, the team who perform only transport, transporting the changes. So if you want the same kind of the roles and responsibility, then you create a one users. Okay, you assign this four the privileges. The user only can able to perform export input only, nothing else. Okay, if you see the others object, it is common for the modelings. Common is modeling. If you see that, analytical is common. Okay, it is common. Package privilege is also common. If you see, so it is common. Yeah, content admin having the addition. Yeah, this one. Okay, so what is this? So content admin, in the content admin, you will get the one more additional, like you can do the emergency repair in quality of production. Same like in the SAP application. If there is a P1, P2 tickets, the developers they need to perform to resolve that one. The developers they do emergency changes in the production or quality. Okay. So same concept we have in this HANA database. If you want to modify the object directly in production or quality, then you should have the content admin. So using the content admin, the user will get this access privileges on imported package. Imported packages mean the package which you have imported in the quality or productions. There you can edit the import package. You can edit modifieds there to resolve the some emergency issues and all that. Yeah. Then other is the SAP internal also HANA supports. So SAP says that this is only assigned to the SAP users. SAP user means SAP want to access your database to perform some like go live checks, or some, if they want to fix some issues, then they will ask you, minimum they need this roles assignment. So they will ask the one user ID, password, and that user should have this SAP underscore internal underscore HANA support roles. Okay, so it has the minimum access to your systems. Okay, and the all the logs. So with these roles, the SAP user will not get access to the business data. Okay, the customer data they won't get the access. They will get access to the systems data, system related informations. Okay, read access. So if you see here in the privileges, you'll see the read all, category trace admin. They can generate the trace in objects. Okay, so these are the minimum privileges. Your application analytic privilege we don't have. If you don't have the analytic privilege, then user will not get access to the customer data. The package privileges don't have the package privileges. Application we don't have. Only system privileges and the object privileges we have. Okay, to analyze the terms. So you can only assign these roles to one user only. If you assign these roles to multiple users, then you will get the warnings alert saying that SAP underscore Intel HANA support is assigned to more than one users, like this. Okay, you cannot assign the roles to a system users. You can assign any users, but you can assign one. If you assign more than one, then you will get an alert in the systems that this roles is content the more users. The more users are having access to this one. So always have one users for this one. Fine. So this is all about the roles and the users. So this this is the minimum information as a basis consultant we should be aware. Okay. Otherwise, if you don't know all these things, then it's difficult for you to manage the HANA database. Sometimes what happens in the small organizations, okay, they don't have the security, or they have the security consultant, but security consultant doesn't know about the HANA security. So in that cases, they ask the basis people to manage the HANA security. So you can manage like this. So monitoring, you can assign basis consultant, and then for the development. So if you see that we have only 4 to few people are there. For developers, any developers, you assign the modelings. If they want to take the export import part as well, then you assign the content admin. Okay, if you want to give access to the SAP, then you assign the SAP underscore internets. Okay, if you have the L1 L1 supports for HANA database like monitorings, then you assign the monitorings. Okay, so these are the basics. If you know this thing, then you can easily manage your HANA security with the standard SAP tools. Okay, you can manage if you are expert in the HANA security, then you can create your own rules. So instead of giving the entire access to your HANA database, you can limit it. Okay, for example, if you assign the content admin, then user will get access to entire repositories. If you want to restrict that this particular user can access only XYZ repositories, XYZ object, then you can restrict to your own the rules. Okay, but that is very vast. Okay, so yeah. So, but as of now, this is enough as a basis or a HANA admin consultant. Any questions here?
Is there any way to lock user or mass locking facility?
Mass locking again, it is done through the SQL script. Okay, but if you want to log and unlock the users, yeah, so here is there. Let me close this one. If you see here, okay, so if you want to log, just open the users, whatever the users you want to log and unlock. So if you see that here, the status, we don't have any status. Okay, let me refresh here. If you see that here we don't have anything, so that means that this user is active. If you want to unlock this user, then here we have the button deactivate users. So deactivate means you unlock the users, you lock the users. If you click deactivate, it will ask you if you want to deactivate. If you click yes, then user will be deactivated. So if you see that status region explicitly deactivated, means the administrator is deactivated. Okay, meaning of this. Okay, if you want to unlock these users, then same you have to click activate users. Click activate users, then click yes, it will activate. Okay, if you want to reset the password, you just type the new password and then click on the deploy button. Here you type the new password and then click on the deploy button. Okay, so like this you can manage the users password and locking and unlocking. Yeah, but mass unlocking and locking is done through the SQL script. You just create a SQL script and then you just pass the user's name and then execute in the SQL console. It will be done. Any other questions? No questions? Then I will move to the next topic. So yeah, so let's start with the new topics, like a small topic, HADR. Just give me 2 minutes. Let me open the PPT. Okay, so let's start with the new topic with the scalability concept. Okay, and the HEDR. So yeah, so to understand the before we start with the HA or DR topics, we should first understand the HANA scalability concept. So what is that? What is that exactly? So scalability means upgrading the HANA database hardware by adding the CPU, RAM, or by adding the nodes. So two types of scaling we have: scale up and the scale out. Scale up means you upgrading your HANA database by adding the CPU and the RAM, and scale out means you are scaling horizontally by adding the nodes to HANA systems. Okay, we'll see that. So scaling SAP HANA database, why it is required? As the amount of data in the database systems grow, the HANA systems hardware needs to be upgraded to accommodate the added data volumes and the workload. So as the database grow, we have to upgrade the hardware as well. Okay, to accommodate the additional data. Okay, so there are two types of options are available: scale up and the scale out. Scale up means we are adding, you have the one HANA system, single node systems. In the single node, you are adding CPU and the RAMs. So these types of upgrade, hardware upgrade, we call scale up. We are scaling up the HANA nodes. Okay, so this is for single uh, systems. Okay, if you have the single node in your HANA systems. If you have the distributed systems, you have the multiple nodes in one HANA systems, and you want to upgrade, then we don't add the CPU and the RAMs. If you want to add in CPU and the RAMs, you have to add this CPU and RAMs in all the nodes. So it will be a very costly. So here what we do, if you want to increase the memory and the CPU in the scale out, then we add the same amount of same size of hardware in the HANA systems. Okay, so if you see that here we have the same amount of RAM, same amount of CPU, same OS version. Okay, same, everything same, hardware same. We add into the distributed environment. Then we are adding the node in the distributed environment that it call a scale out. Okay, so if you see that scale up generally refer to increasing the size of one physical machine by increasing the amount of CPU and the RAM. Okay, so what is the pros and cons? The pros is the less power consumption is required in the data centers. Cooling cost is less as compared to the scaling horizontally, like as compared to the scale out. Generally less challenging to implement, because here you have the one systems. Okay, you just add the CPU and the RAMs in one systems. The less licensing cost is required. Okay, so footprint for your the memory will be less, and also OS license, you require only one OS license because you have only one HANA systems here. One node we have in the HANA systems. Okay, that runs only on the single OS. Cons: higher cost. Okay, so one SID is you running the one systems. Okay, on the this particular nodes. Okay, so sometime what happen, the node which you have for the single node, it's very costly because of the if you buy more RAMs, more CPU, then definitely it will cost more. Okay, But if you buy the single node with 12 TB, and if you buy two, 4 nodes with, 3 nodes with the with 2 TB of hardware, then it will be less costly, I think. Yeah. So the cost factor is higher in this one, because you will be also uh, uh, the license cost is also required for the OS. Sorry, not the license cost. Uh, your hardware cost is big, because this will be a for example, if you're considering as an appliance, okay, and your memory footprint is higher, okay, then definitely your cost will go higher. So here, great risk of the hardware failures, okay, means if your node is failed, then you will see the downtime, okay. So you don't have options in single node HANA database, okay. So if your power failure is happen, then you will face the downtime, okay. Coming to the scale out, okay. So if you see here, in the scale out, we add the nodes, okay, same size of the nodes we add. What is the pause? Easy to run fault tolerance, means if any of the node goes down, then another nodes will be available to handle the user requests. Workload is distributed across the host. Your workload is distributed across the host. The cons, more license fees are required, okay. So if you see that you require the license for node 1 OS license, node 2 for the OS license, node 3 for the OS license. And for the HANA database memory license, you require 6 TB of your license you require. One license is required with the 6 TB of RAM. Okay, so license, and your database footprint will be higher. So basically, this scale out scenario we will go with if you have the bigger database footprint. Okay, so to achieve the good performance, okay, so we distribute the loads across the host by using the scale out, and you will get the good performance in the scale out. The more license fees, bigger footprint in the data center, higher utility cost, okay. Electricity and the cooling cost is more, because here you will be having the multiple systems, okay. So electricity cooling cost will be more as compared to the single systems, single node. Yeah, fine. Any questions here?
What is cooling cost?
Cooling cost means AC, power cooling.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so in the data center we have the so if you put any servers in the data centers, they charge electricity, then maintenance, then cooling costs. Okay, your servers will be cool with the ACs and all that. Yeah. Any questions before I move to the next slide?
Sir, for scale up situation, the licensing cost will be lesser. Means
Scale up.
this,
Yeah.
but okay.
Yeah, tell me. What is your
So
doubt?
why it is so? Because here you will be means you will be having 6 GB of RAM, and if in a scale up situation, if I buy 6 GB of RAM, what is the why it is higher in scale up situation?
Scale up higher means I didn't get you. What are you saying?
Means here if you buy 6 GB RAM license in this scale out scenario, means this is more licensing fees, but why it is so? Means in the both the occasion we are buying the same 6 TB RAM license, then why it will be higher?
You're saying why the license cost is higher in the scale out? So license cost, if you see that here you require the 3 OS license, right? You will require the OS, right?
Okay. Got
Okay, so yeah, and the your DB license anyhow it is, it will require. Okay, but additionally, if you see that other OS license cost, okay, you will require.
Means inclusive of all you are talking about. Okay, got it.
Sorry,
Means inclusive of all OS licenses have.
everything, including of everything, DB license and then the OS license as well.
Okay, got it.
Okay, fine, fine. So, mm, okay, so you understand the scalability concept. Now we'll move to the high availability and the disaster recovery. So before HA the DR, the scalability concept are very important. So we'll see that. So what is the HA and the DR in the HANA database? So first we'll see the planned downtime and unplanned downtimes. So in the business, we are targeting a continuous availability. Okay, so continuous availability uh, is achieved through configuring the HA or DR mechanisms. So continuous availability can be, can have the unavailability with planned and unplanned downtimes. We take a planned downtime for HANA patching, HANA upgrade, hardware upgrade, then any maintenance activity, then custom developments. Okay, so these are the planned outage which we plan. We take approval from the business, and then we can go with the planned downtime. So that is fine. The business is okay with that one. But there is an unplanned downtime as well. Business is worried about the unplanned downtime. So unplanned downtime is happen through the hardware failures, through network failures, malfunctioning, okay, disaster, then power failure, okay, security threats, natural disasters, then another unplanned outage. Okay, so how we can avoid the unplanned downtimes? So unplanned downtimes, how we can avoid in HANA database. So we'll see that. So unplanned downtimes can be avoided in the HANA database. So HANA database supports HA and the DR as well. So HANA database is fully designed for high availability. High availability is achieved by eliminating the single point of failures and providing the ability to rapidly resume the operations after the system outage with minimum business losses. So HANA database supports fault recovery and the disaster recovery. The fault recovery is the process of recovering and resuming the operation after the outage due to a fault. So due to a fault means hardware, hardware fail, then power outage, okay, then your database OS issues, software issues, anything that's related to the we call a fault recovery. Okay, so within the data center, whatever is happened to your hardware, your box, your servers, node, okay, whether it is your service failure, whether it is OS failure, so that we call a fault recovery. Okay, so that's all comes under the fault recovery. Disaster recovery is the process of recovering the operation after the outage due to the prolonged data center of site failures. Okay, so if your site is failed, primary site and the secondary site you have, if your primary site is failed, okay, there's some disaster happen, earthquake like this, yeah, or fire or something, tsunami and all that, and your primary data center is, you know, uh, you know, uh, not operational. Okay, so in that case, we can enable the disaster side, that is the secondary side. Okay, so that process we call a disaster recovery. So disaster recovery is between two data centers. Fault recovery is always within the data centers. So HANA database supports both fault recovery and the disaster recovery. So we'll see that. High availability for scale up and the scale out. Okay. So we have scale up and the scale out. If you want to achieve the higher availability for your scale up systems, then SAP providing the HANA system replication. SAP HANA system replication is suitable for scale up systems by adding the secondary systems. So you have the one HANA systems as a scale up. You want to enable the HA, then you have to create the same size of secondary systems. You install the secondary system with the same OS, same SAP database version, same SID, same instance number, same user ID, same password. You build systems and then you can configure the HANA system replication. We'll see that HANA system replication, how we do. So HANA system replication is suitable for the S4HANA, ERP on HANA or transactional systems. So basically scale up system is used for transactional systems. Transactional systems like ECC, ERP, S4HANA, then solution manager, then APO system, SRM systems. Okay, so these all are the transactional systems. HANA system replication can be implemented as a HA within the data centers, or it can be implemented as a disaster, that is the DR between two data centers. So HANA system replication is used for both HA and the DR configurations. SAP HANA host auto failover is suitable for scale out systems. If you want to have the high availability for your scale out scenario, scale out systems, then we can configure the SAP HANA host auto failover by adding the standby nodes in the scale out system. This is basically suitable for the BW or analytical systems. Okay, analytical systems like reading the data. So the system which is designed for reporting, like BW systems. So HANA host auto failover scale out is suitable for the BW systems. It is only implemented as a high availability. So scale out with HANA host auto failover, that is HANA host auto failover is only supported for the HA within the data centers. You cannot have the host auto failover between the data centers. Okay, so scale out means you will be having the multiple nodes. So you cannot put some nodes in one data center and some nodes in other data centers. If you configure like this, then you will face the performance issue because distance between the two data center is huge. Okay, so for the scale out, we always configure within the data centers. Okay, with the same network latency. Okay, so less latency means you will get the good performance. Higher latency means you will get bad performance of the HANA system. Latency is referred to the network bandwidth. Okay, fine. Any questions till now?
So the auto failover enablement and HSR enablement is different, two different procedure.
Yes, both are different. So scale up, we configure the HANA system replication. For scale out, we configure the HANA host auto failover if we want to achieve the HA. Okay.
And auto failover is also configured through Studio only. No.
No, it is not configured through the studio. It is configured through the OS level. So configure means it is having the installations. So we install as a HANA system like okay. So if you see that whatever we have done the installation, that is the signal node. So if you have the multiple nodes, if you have 2 or 3 nodes, then the HANA shade is there. HANA shade, the mount point is there. That HANA shade should be NFS mounted on the all the nodes. And from the resident SDB LCM, if you see that in the second or third lectures, I explained about the resident SDB LCM. Through the resident SDB LCM, you can configure these scale-out systems. You can add the additional nodes into the HANA systems. So on the next second node, if you want to add a second nodes into the HANA systems, then you require HANA shade as the NFS on the second nodes. And HANA data, SID, HANA log SID, these 3 mount point you required on your second nodes as a NFS. Then log in with the root, then go to the HANA shared directories. In the resident SDB LCM is there. You just run the resident SDB LCM script, okay, from the HANA shared. Then once you run, then it will give you the options what you want to perform. Then select the add the nodes. Once you click on the add the nodes, it will ask you whether what is the roles for this node. So you select a worker, you add as a worker node, okay, and then once you confirm, then that node is added, and then you will see the index servers is active on the second nodes to handle the loads, users loads. Similar, like you can add the standby nodes. You should need the all the HANA shared, HANA data SID, HANA log SID, okay, on the standby nodes. And from the root, log in with the root, go to the HANA shared SDB LCM folder, and then run the SDB LCM, and there you select add node. Then here, if you're adding it as a standby, then you have to provide the node type as a standby. So it will ask whether you want to add standby or worker. So worker means all the nodes will be active, and the standby node, if you add these, the node will be added as a standby, and the node will be on a standby only. Yeah. So that's why having a big, advanced level configurations for the scale out. Okay. So yeah. So this way you can configure, and for the HSR, you require same size of HANA systems hardware to configure the HANA system replication for the scale up systems. Yeah. It is clear?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Fine. Any other question, guys? Fine. So this is very complex. Okay, host auto failover is very complex. Then HANA system replication, if you see the high level diagrams, you have the data centers, you have the primary HANA systems, then secondary HANA systems, then your data and the logs are continuously shipped to the secondary systems through the HANA database kernels. Okay, so here the people ask for the interview questions. So what is the scale up and the scale out? What is the use of SAP HANA host auto failover? Okay, what is HANA system replication? Okay, how you will configure? So whether the HANA system, whether you can configure the HA or DR both with the HANA system replication? Yes, we can configure. Another question asked in the HANA host auto failover: is it possible that you can configure the HANA host auto failover for the DR? No, it is not possible. You cannot use. Okay, so host auto failover is configured within the data centers. That is for the HA, and the HANA system replication is configured for HA and the DR within the data center and between the two data centers. Okay, so HANA system replication supports both HA and the DR. Yeah, so they can ask questions. The answer will be different, but they can ask different questions, different types of questions, but the answer will be same. So concept, just get your concept clear on this part. Fine. So the questions will be tricky. They will ask some questions, but answer you have to give. The answer will be common for all types of questions in the HSA in HANA system replication in the host autopilot. So just understand the questions and then you answer it. Okay, so here in the HSR, we transfer the data and the logs to the secondary. Okay, so it is done through the HANA database kernel. So whenever the data is entered, whenever the logs is generated, that is sent immediately to the secondary nodes, and that is applied on the secondary nodes. So your primary will be active, your all the application will be connected to the primary, and the secondary will be inactive. Once the primary goes down with the some unplanned downtime, then we can bring up the secondary as a primary, and all the connection we can repoint to the secondary, that is the primary database. Yeah, so we'll see that. So if you see the host auto failover high level, so here you have the host one, there you have the name servers, index servers, strategy servers, the name servers, index servers, name server, index servers, name servers, and the index servers. So each and every services will be having their own logs and the data. Here logs and the data, logs and the data. Okay, so if you see that on this is the worker node. Okay, host 1, host 2, host 3 are the worker nodes. That is the active nodes, and this is the standby nodes. On the standby nodes, the name server is only active, or index server is always inactive. That is on standby. So if you remember in the architecture, the first or second lectures, first lectures, I explained about the name servers. So name server does the auto failover in the scale out scenario in host auto failover. If the any of the active nodes, host 1, host 2, host 3 is down, then the name server is notified. The name server is active on standby. This name server will be notified that, for example, if the host 2 is down, then the name servers will be notified, and then the name server will activate the standby node as active. So it will activate the index servers. Okay, and it will take the control of failed node. Okay, so the data and the logs will be pointed to the standby nodes. So the standby nodes take the control of the failed nodes. So whatever the node is failed, it will take the controls of that failed nodes, and this standby will become active, and user will not notify any downtime. So it does in seconds. This auto failover does it in seconds. So this auto failover is automatic in the HANA host auto failover. It is managed by the HANA database kernels. Yeah. Any questions here? So interview questions. What is the name servers? What is the roles and responsibility of the name server in HANA host auto failover? So it does the failover. Yeah. Any questions? No. Fine. So HA, if you see that, so if you see this diagram, so here we have the business continuity, how we can achieve the business continuity through the HA and the DR. So HA is always within the data center, and the data disaster recovery is between two data centers. For the HA configuration, so HA configuration, the HANA database supports SAP HANA host auto failover, that is scale out with standby, and then HANA system replication. For the disaster recovery, the HANA system replication is supported, and then HANA storage replication is supported. This HANA storage replication is done by the storage team, so we don't have the visibility. Okay, so this is from the hardware level. Okay, but for this too, HANA host auto failover and the HANA system replication within the data centers and HANA system replication between two data center, we do the configurations. Okay, we means the basis, or HANA admin do the configuration. So HANA admin on the basis, people are the responsible for configuring the host auto failover and the HANA system replication within the data center or between the data center. Storage replication, we are not responsible. The hardware team are responsible for doing the storage replication. Whether it is on premise, whether it is on cloud, any cloud, Azure, AWS, or GCP, or IBM Cloud, any cloud. If they want to configure the storage replication, then it is not the basis jobs. It is not HANA admin jobs. Whatever they information they need, we can provide, but the setup and the configuration, the hardware team and the storage team has to perform. The monitoring for the storage replication also, it is not our jobs. Okay, so hardware level we don't do anything. The monitoring of the host auto failover, HANA system replication, it is through the software. Okay, so we are responsible for the software. So monitoring, configuration of the host auto failover HANA system replication, we are the owner. We are the we take the whole center responsibility. Fine. So HA and the DR, the KPIs. So yeah, two more slide is there. Then we'll the tools. So HA and the DR KPI. So what factor is define the HA and the DR for the business? So if you define the DR or the HA, so HA is fine. So in the HA means high availability, means always available. Okay, so yeah, so there we don't have the we have the always zero downtime and the zero data loss. Okay, so HA is designed for that purpose. Okay, but if you are going for the DRs, okay, so what factors define the DRs? So what is the SLA for the DR? You can say the DR SLA. So DR KPIs, two part is there, RPO and the RTO. This RPO and the RTO decide the SLA for the DR. So what is that RPO and the RPO? RPO means recovery point object. So recovery point object means that the maximum tolerable period for time during okay, so I'll explain the my own language. So recovery point object means the how much data losses the business can bear. Means, so how much if there is a disaster between in the data center and you want to switch your DR, then how much data the business, how much data business can if the, for example, basically data loss. So how much data loss the business can bear. Okay, for example, if you define the RPO is 30 minutes. Okay, so if you define the RPO is 30 minutes and some disaster is happened on your primary data center, and now you have to enable the disaster systems. So the business is accepted the SLA that during the the contract, that 30 minutes data loss the business can bear. There won't be any problem for the business if data is lost for 30 minutes. So you activated the data DR systems, and if there is if business check the systems, and if they found that no data loss, means you recover your systems, your disaster systems, you record all the data. Okay, but if business found 10 minutes or 25 minutes data is lost, then that is acceptable because that is part of the SLA. If business find that data is lost for more than 30 minutes, then that SLA is not met. So the business so that that will not acceptable for the business. So business will give ask for some fine, okay, something if as per their SLAs. Okay, so RPO define the data losses, how much data loss business can bear in case of the disasters. Okay, if the RPO is not met, that means that there is a more data loss as per the SLA, and then the customer can claim the SLA amount. Yeah, so they can ask for the service. So if the SLA is not met, then the customers, the vendor pay the some fees to them. Yeah, like this. Okay, so that is the different part. So RTO, what is the RTO? So RTO means it is related to the recovery. So that is the recovery time objects. Okay, so maximum times taken to resume the data center, to resume or recover the data center. Okay, for example, if I have given the 4 hours RTO or 8 hours RTO, then within that RTO I have to bring up the data centers, bring up the business operational. Okay, so my primary data center goes down and the RTO is defined 4 hours. So within the 4 hours, I have to make sure that disaster systems should be operational within the 4 hours because SLA is the 4 hours. Okay, so when we do the RPO and the when we do the when we enable the disaster systems. Okay, if there is disaster declared by the data centers. Okay, if the primary data center goes down and there is no options, so the data center declare the disaster, and then business has to take up calls, and the management of the customer has to take a call. If they take a calls, we need to activate the data centers, secondary data centers. Then we as a consultant, technical consultant, we work. Okay, so we have the the OS team, network team, the application team, basis teams. So they all work together and they bring up the disaster systems. So within the RPO and the RTO, whatever the RPO and the RTO we define, we ensure that the disaster systems comes within that SLA. Fine. So what factor? So what is the cost involved in the RPO and the RTO? So we'll see that one. So for the disaster recovery, we have different methods. So you can build disaster systems using the backup and recovery. You can have the storage replication, and you can have the HANA system replication. So these 3 methods are used for disaster recovery or for the HANA database. If you go with the backup and recovery, then the cost will be low. Okay, but your RPO will be higher. Okay, so RPO means a recovery point object. Data losses will be there. Data losses is maximum in the backup and recovery. RTO is also high because recovery time object means you will be installing the OS. Okay, then HANA softwares, then you will be installing the SAP systems, then you will restore backups on that, and then you will perform some the integrations. Okay, so it's required the times. So backup and recovery, the methods have the maximum RTO. Using the backup and recovery, if some logs are not copied to the disaster systems, and if it is not recoverable, then your data will be lost. So RPO is higher in the backup and recovery. the cost is very low. If the customer doesn't have the budget, then they can go with the backup and recovery. If they feel that whenever the disaster will happen, will bring the will create a will install the new systems using the backups. Okay, so that will be a disaster systems. Okay, but this is not a good solutions. Okay, using the backup and recovery. But if you have if doesn't have the cost, then you go with this one. HANA storage replication it is used for the DR. Okay, so backup and recovery used for the H and the DR. You can have both. HANA storage only for the DR. The cost is double, is higher than backup and recovery. The RPO is there, and the RTO is also there. Okay, so RTO is the medium. RPO is the also the some data losses is there in the HANA storage replication. The RTO is medium means here you have to be you have to point your application or you install the application on your database. Okay, the storage replication it is related to the HANA database. Okay, but your application will not be connected to this. So some to activate this as a DR, so it is required the higher RTO. So the RTO and the RPO can be provided by uh, the hardware vendors because they are responsible for the storage replication. These RPO and the RPO they have to decide. And the HANA system replication is used for the H and the DR. The cost is higher than storage replication. Okay, so the RPO is near zero. We can say that in HANA system replication. The RTO is the lower. So so if disaster is happen, so within a 30 minutes you can bring up your disaster systems. Okay, DR system you can bring up using the HANA system replication in 30 minutes. Within the 30 minutes, the RPO, the maximum data losses is 10 minutes. Okay, minimum 10 minutes is there. It's all depends upon your configuration, how you configure, what operation mode, what replication mode we use. Okay, so depends upon the operation and the replication mode, you can achieve the zero data loss using the HANA system replications. So everywhere people are using the HANA system replication. They are not using the storage replication and the backup recovery. So HANA system replication is very good tools, good mechanism for the H and the TR. You won't see much downtime. Okay, maximum downtime is 30 minutes. If you see that your primary is down and you want to bring up, then within the 30 minutes you can bring up the secondary HANA database. Okay, so we'll see that. So if you want to lower the RTO and the RPO, then you have to pay the higher cost. Okay, so yeah, so it's all depends upon the business requirements. It's all depends upon the business needs. If they are looking for the good HA and the DR, then they will go with the HANA system replication, but they have to pay the cost for that. Okay. Any questions till now? We will cover. We'll stop today. Yeah, guys. Any questions before I stop?
So the RPO and RTO for HSR is decided by both infra and also by the storage team as well as by the admin team, like the application team, HANA team.
Yeah, HANA system replication. So we decide basis people.
But how will we decide? Because if the what happens if my HSR is enabled but the server is not responding, then the RPO and RTO should be on the infra side, right?
Yeah, so they have their own infra. They will be having their own RPO, the RTO. So it is not only the basis. So if you have the disaster systems, then there we have the RPO and the RTO for the OS. We have the RPO and the RTO for the hardwares. We have the RPO and the RTO for the networks. We have the RPO and the RPO and the RTO for all the vendors who involved. So yeah, definitely everything should be involved. So we will be take care our part. If you see that during this disaster recovery, everything is there, like OS is there, my server is also there. So these people will come first. At the end, application will come. Okay, if you see that these all not there, then that is not our duty. So that is not our fault. Okay, so if their RPO and the RTO is not met, then that is their rules and they have to responsible. We are responsible for the HANA database. To enable the the DR, we need infra. Okay, so infra team have their own RPO and the RTO. Okay, it is not clubbed. Okay, it is always separate for the infra and the basis. Okay, if network is also not there, for example, you want to want your disaster systems to be up, but if you're not able to connect to the disaster systems, disaster side, DR side, then it is the network team is responsible. Okay, so they have their RPO and the RTO. Within that RPO and the RTO, they have to resume their the connections. They have to make sure that they will make sure that they will complete their own task. Yeah, so if you see that something is related to hardware infra network, then you highlight those one. Once everything is that is resolved, then you do your jobs. Okay, so during the disaster recovery, there will be a plan. It is not like that there will be a mail, you go and enable your disaster recovery. It is not like that. So it is planned. Okay, so we do the DR drills. Okay, if you see that in your projects, so every year we do a DR drills. So in the DR drills, we ensure that all the vendors they achieve their RP on the RTO. Okay, and we have the documents. So during the DR drills, we prepare the documents. We prepare who will do first. Who will come first. Okay, so at the end we come. Okay, and yeah, so DR drills, if you if DR drill is planned, then you involve in the DR drills, not on implementation, but just have the part of that team, so that you will be aware how the DR drill is performed. So many people are involved, the business, network team, hardware vendors, all the vendors. So whatever the vendors are there, whether they have roles and the responsibility or not, they all join the DR drills, and they once the disaster systems are up, they perform the testings, and then we roll back we'll go back to the uh, on the primary data centers. Yeah, fine. Any other questions?
Also, the HANA storage replication, is it similar to snapshots?
It is not a snapshot. It is not a. I don't know how it is done. Might be no. It is not a snapshot. Snapshot means you're taking the backups of your file systems. Okay,
Yes.
but in the storage replication, the replication is happened storage level, block to block, page by page. Okay, so you will be having the two storage. Okay, so storage is a big device is there, so you will be having the replica of your storage. So between two data centers, if you have two data centers, then by default the data center has the storage replication, whether it is application, database, whatever it is. So by default they have all the data centers, private data centers, they have the storage replication. So it does at the data hardware levels, storage level. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions, guys? Other question? Fine, then we'll stop today, and then the next week. Let me stop the recording first.